in construction, we are fighting fires because we're doing things last minute and not planning ahead. And when you're doing that, don't be surprised at what you get.
Hey, it's Brad here. And before we get into the show, I want to tell you about today's sponsor, Next Insurance. You know, a lot of us contractors spend so much time keeping the jobs moving that we push off the boring stuff to the back burner, and insurance is usually at the top of that list until the day you really wish you had it. A customer slips on a job site, a tool breaks right in the middle of critical work, a supplier screws up again and leaves you holding the bill. You can lose thousands overnight. And most folks only realize they need insurance when something's already gone sideways. That's why I really like what Next Insurance is doing. They've made business insurance ridiculously simple. You just answer a few questions online, and Next tells you exactly what coverage your business needs, and you're insured in minutes. No sitting on hold, no paperwork, no call us back later nonsense. Next is built for builders, contractors, tradespeople, or anyone running their own shop. And here's the kicker. Their policies start as low as $29 a month, and you get your certificate of insurance instantly, which means you never have to delay a job because you're waiting on insurance. Protect what you've built and keep your business moving with confidence. Get covered in minutes at nextinsurance.com/hammer. Now let's get back to the show. Hey, welcome back to the show. I'm your host, Brad Hedmer. Today I have a guest with me, Mark Story with Commercial Construction Services, LLC. Mark, welcome to the show.
Hey, thanks for having me on, Brad.
Absolutely. Before we get into this, Mark, just kind of give us a little background, who you are, what you do. Give us something we can start with.
Yeah. Well, like you said, my name is Mark Story. I've got 37 years of construction experience. I started out as a laborer, did ironwork like we just talked about down in Evansville. I'm from Michigan originally, and I've spent a career on major commercial projects from federal data centers to hyperscale data centers with clients. I can't mention their names. Healthcare, aviation, semiconductor plants. And I started CCS, I call it for short, Commercial Construction Services, because I saw a need in our industry. We're going really fast. Companies and team members on these large projects don't have bandwidth to do all the things that are necessary to get them done. And we really enjoy teaching people and helping folks to have bandwidth and get things done, stay on track, deliver quality projects, deliver first-time quality work, and do it safely. So that's really why we started.
Awesome. Well, we're going to dive into a lot of that, but I recently watched a podcast episode with Palmer Luckey and Mike Rowe. Did you happen to see that episode by chance?
I believe so, yes.
Well, they were talking about the new, data centers that are being built and how there's really not enough tradespeople to build these centers because they're massive, and you're talking enormous amounts of infrastructure and work. You said you did some of those types of experiences. I mean, what's your thoughts on that?
They're 100% correct. We do not have enough tradesmen and women to accomplish all the things that we need to do. And the other part of this is certainly everybody knows about the data center and the semiconductor, blowing up really across the country. But the other part that people miss out on is in order for those facilities to survive, to be built, they need areas to prefab walls and mechanical and electrical equipment. So they need warehouses in close proximity of those facilities to make, speed to market, right? So everywhere there's one of these or multiples of these facilities being built, there's mainly tilt wall construction is what I'm seeing for distribution centers, warehouses, things of that nature. There's certainly a bunch of steel done as well. And so it's not just there on that campus. These areas, one of the projects I was on in a Northwest city, Boise, Idaho, small market, we're bringing in folks from all over the country to get this work done, literally for every corner of the United States. It's a good thing in a way, but it is impacting these smaller builders in the area as well. And how do they get things done and get things accomplished? So there's a lot of trades. I'll just use Boise as an example because that's where I live. A lot of contractors coming from Utah and other states to help facilitate this other work that needs to be done.
I didn't even think about that. I mean, basically, you got to build the infrastructure before you can even build the facility.
Yeah.
Like you're building these warehouses and you're building all of this. Yeah, I didn't even think about that. I mean, obviously, you got all the other stuff as far as, the power grid and water and utilities and everything else that has to be beefed up and, added to. I mean, there's just a lot that goes into those. And we had that problem here because Toyota put a plan in here. I don't know how long it's been, maybe 10, 15 years ago, maybe even more. But right after they built it, they needed thousands of people. And we're in a small market, there wasn't a huge pool of people. Even for that, you had to bring people from out of town. And then because it's kind of out in the middle of nowhere, then they build subdivisions near that for people to not have to, go as far. And so there's just massive amounts of development that goes into these things.
Yes.
It's really crazy, actually.
Yeah. And it's so up in Boise, I mean, there's a town, Mountain Home, about 45 minutes to the east of Boise, that 45-minute drive is going to be filled with, there's a huge development, a residential development. There's RV parks, there's hotels, and, where do all these workers go when they get there, right? They can't all live in trailers. And you have to have a place for them to go stay so that they're safe and they can get to work in the morning like we all need them to.
Yeah. That's just, it's pretty wild. With what you guys do, I mean, what would you say is your bread and butter kind of work that you guys do?
So we are truly a field-led consulting firm. We are not, we don't come in and, write you a note, hey, do these things and then peel out, right? We call it sprinkling fairy dust, right? So we are really in there, like I said, I'm a construction worker at heart, and we come in, roll up our sleeves, we assess projects, assess project teams. We help them with long-term planning. A lot of times what happens is these projects, the lead superintendent will be sent to the project, a month before the project starts. And if you're talking let's just say a $300 or $400 million project, a month is not near enough time to plan that work and to have a good plan, right? So we see a lot of these projects, they're fighting a fire from day one, and that's not a recipe for success. So we go in, we bring structure to the project teams. A lot of times project teams are set up of the lead superintendent. Maybe they've never done a $400 million job, right? So this person doesn't know what they don't know. So we help them with, my experience of running billion-dollar projects, several billion-dollar projects, all the way down to, $50 million projects is how do you structure the team? We talk about staffing and what is the right things. We help mold the team and get people in the right seats so they can be successful, but still stretch them. And then we focus our efforts on planning and scheduling, teaching people visual planning, reviewing their schedule. We use in construction, we use a CPM schedule. It's a critical path schedule. And it's not always easy to see where you need everybody and why you need them there. So we do flow analysis on your schedule. We look for opportunities or optimization of your schedule. And then we wrap it all up in a bow with coaching. So I have a partner, Elevate Construction, in the planning and scheduling side, and they have wonderful software that we use. I bring 37 years of operations and teaching folks how to build relationships and bring trades along to help them to be successful. And then we, currently right now, we have we're coaching all the leadership of a business unit and the leadership of a project team. And that is the coaching thing for many, many years. That was only available to C-suite professionals, right? And at least for my experience over the last 10 or 15 years, it's become a little more available to folks that are, I'm going to say the boots on the ground folks, right? And so we've partnered with Debbie Lundberg is fantastic. And we put together coaching programs. Like I have 5 people that I coach on this project in this business unit, and they're all the leaders, right? And then we're coaching them, and then we've partnered them with folks on their team. So project managers, project engineers, assistant superintendents. So these folks are actually learning to be a coach, right? It's, and it's pretty impactful what it will do for your team. As an example, like who teaches people in construction how to have tough conversations?
Right.
It doesn't happen that often.
Very many.
Yeah. So if you want to talk about a team that is, say, 30 people up to maybe 300 people, you need all those people swimming in the same direction, right?
Yeah.
And how do you do that? You don't do that by walking in and going and hiding in your office, right?
Right.
You got to figure out how to work as a team. When tough things need to be discussed, you need to have those discussions, build strong relationships. And it really is about that, right? Building strong relationships. That way you have a good conversation about what works for me, what doesn't work for me. The other thing in construction is pride and ego gets in the way, right?
I talk about this all the time.
And it's probably in every industry, right?
Yeah.
Nobody wants to admit they don't know anything, right? Or they don't know something. And you got to be really comfortable in your skin to share in front of your peers of 30, 40 contractors, hey, I don't know what that means.
Yeah.
And so that coaching stuff helps with that, right? And it becomes organic, and it's really pretty powerful stuff.
Yeah. So I just want to make sure I understand kind of what you guys do. So do you work for the general contractor? Do you work for the client? Like who would you typically work for?
We can work for both.
Okay.
We typically work for the general contractor, but we are currently talking to some owners as well.
Okay.
Mostly it's easier for me to go in, and I've built some really strong relationships across the country over 37 years. So a lot of people know who I am, and thankfully they've been willing to give me a chance. And it's pretty surprising, Brad, that we go to projects and project teams don't have good agendas for meetings. And in the commercial world, one of the number one things that I find every time I go to a project is people are complaining about meetings. And I immediately ask, like, well, what are you doing about it? And they're like, well, we've tried to do this, we've tried to do that, and it hasn't worked. And a lot of times it's just listening, putting your pride aside, throwing away the things that don't work. And then also we always say, like, if it's not working, either fix it or throw it away, right? If you're not getting benefit from it, don't waste your time on it, because chances are the rest of the room is doing that. And currently, as an example, I'm working on it's an Army Corps of Engineers project, great project teams. They're all complaining about their owners meeting, and they've been there for 2 years. They've tried 2 or 3 different things. We're sitting down with them, and we've already made some vast improvements. And the team's like, wow. So we're like a fresh set of eyes, and we already have set agendas that we are very cautious of. Like, if we came to your company, Brad, I would want to know about your culture first, right? So before we make an agenda and just say, follow this, right? We want to make sure that it plugs in and follows your culture of your company. Typically is typically very close anyways. We want to talk about similar things at every meeting. We want to do shout outs. We want to talk about safety, quality, schedule. Where are we at? It's just the way you do it.
Yeah. Yeah. So just so I can understand, let's say I'm a general contractor, an industrial contractor. Elon comes to me and says he wants to build a semiconductor plant. And I'm going to build it. I would contact you and your company, and then you would come in and help with organizing the project from a planning, scheduling, kind of leadership perspective.
Yeah.
And the benefit for me would be that, we don't have cost overruns. It doesn't take longer. We don't have all these issues. Kind of makes me look good. Obviously can save some money long-term by eliminating a ton of, problems and mistakes. Does that kind of get that about right then?
Yeah, it is. And if I can add on to that, so you're spot on. We want to work with clients that, number one, are innovative. They are prosperity minded. So that means in our mind, growing their people for the future, right? It's like putting money in a bank account is what I always say. There's this myth in our industry that because a construction superintendent is driving a pickup truck, they automatically know how to plan. They know how to schedule. They know they're great communicators. They know how to lead a meeting. And I'm not just picking on the superintendents. One of our clients the other day, I was having a conversation. We always ask for feedback, like, well, how could we be better and all this stuff. And he's like, Mark, before you guys got here, we didn't have a process for anything. And it's super frustrating because in construction, like a lot of times what I find is we're like a big blunt object that we just throw a big team at it and they'll figure it out. They're smart, they're hardworking, they're gritty, they'll figure it out.
Yeah.
Well, what you find out when you kind of show them some processes, they're like, holy smokes, I don't have to work 16 hours a day, 6 days a week to get this done. I can create a plan, a visual plan. I can show it to everyone. I bring the trades in and get their collaboration and really have some huge success.
Yeah, it's interesting to hear you say that because you think, it would be common thinking to believe that like the larger a company is in terms of size and the bigger the projects they do, the more they have their stuff together. And I hear you saying is that that's not always the case.
Not at all. Not at all.
All right. I mean, it would be reasonable to be like, okay, here, some new guy's been in business 2 years. He does residential. He's a residential plumber, like has one employee. Like, okay, he probably doesn't have a lot of systems and processes,
Yeah.
but you would think the company doing a $50 million project with 30 employees would have it all together. But you're saying, no, it's the same thing, essentially.
Same exact thing. I mean,
Okay.
I go to billion-dollar projects, multi-billion-dollar projects. I'll give you an example. I went to one, what was it, 2-3 years ago now? Like, I think 2 years ago. Several billion-dollar project, hyperscale data center. Project had been underway for, just say round numbers, don't quote me exact, but about a year and a half. Project was somewhere, round numbers, roughly a year behind schedule. Major general contractor, great general contractor. The job looked like a dumpster. It looked like a landfill, right? It looked like a landfill. And this is so much of what we do, Brad, is about the right personalities working together, holding each other accountable, leadership, ownership, right? And I'm not trying to toot my own horn. I had some support with some of this stuff, but a year and a half later, cleanest, safest, most productive, most profitable project in the history of a 40-year company. And it was all about getting organized, building camaraderie. Unfortunately, most of the time in some of these cases that some bad apples have to move along in order to eliminate the roadblocks so the rest of the team can be successful. And when you go to a project that you got, say, 200 to 300 person team, that's a lot of personalities. And that is tough on leadership. And one of the things I'll say, not to get distracted, but before I did staffing for, like, as an operations leader, staffing of projects instead of being on the project, I didn't understand, like most of us, we don't understand how hard something is until we've done it, right? And I was no different. And staffing a project can be as challenging as building the project. So there's a lot to consider. And when people don't jive, things won't get done. So,
yeah. Well, let's get into some of this stuff that you deal with. You said earlier about like visual planning.
Yeah.
What do you mean by visual planning?
So a lot of times, and this is a challenge, and like I'm a general superintendent at heart, right? So that's what I've been doing for many, many years. And even myself, I have a plan. I know what I was going to do, but it was all up here in my head, right? So, and handing trade partners, and this is not a slight to our trade partners or our craft, but if we hand someone a CPM schedule, if it's not a live schedule or they've been trained how to use that software, they won't see the links and where they have to go and what is their predecessor work or successor work. So we go to visual planning. A lot of people use Bluebeam. There's a lot of different softwares out there. And as an example, our civil superintendent on the project I'm on right now, he pulls up, we'll put all of the civil, like site utilities and all that on a page with the foundation of the building. And he'll highlight, this week I'm working from this structure to this structure, so everyone understand. And then he can communicate. He can also see that, like, the steel guy is erecting on the south side of the building. I can't get my trench in here, so he's got to communicate with the steel guy or the concrete guy. And everyone has a visual plan that's overlaid and communicated amongst each trade partner.
Yeah. When you're saying that, I was having a flashback to the first and only strip mall that I managed when I was we were talking earlier. I was working for a developer, and he had fired the construction manager, and so I was a superintendent, and then basically assumed that position for no more pay, I should add.
Yeah.
But I was running a strip mall, and first time I ever done a steel, any kind of steel erection building or whatever. And I just remember I had the excavator was out there doing, putting in the drainage, the drainage pipes for the parking lot. And I had the roof guys, when I had asked them, they told me they're going to start on this end of the building, work this way. They actually were wrong. They had to start on the other end of the building, right where the excavator guy was working.
Yeah.
And it was just like this 2-hour delay. And I just remember, like, how could you screw that up? Like, you put in this steel and roofs every day. How did you not know that you were going to start on this other end? And I didn't have enough experience to even check that. And I just took their word.
Yeah.
But just that one simple hiccup, I delayed them. They had to pull off the job. It was just a big deal because a very simple conversation wasn't had to, fully check that, or they didn't check it, I should say. And I didn't check them.
Right.
So I could see, like, that's just one tiny little thing on a tiny little project. You take $1 billion project with so many parts going on, it can be absolutely crazy.
Yeah, the communication piece. The mystery around communication, everyone thinks they have communicated, right? And
oh, yeah.
What we find and what we do is on this specific project, and we try to do it the same way on every project, right? If you think about construction, it's a mobile factory, right? Every building we build has foundations. Everyone has either steel or concrete structure, or maybe it's framing, structural framing. And they all have concrete, steel, framing, drywall, roofs, all that stuff, right? So we look at that as if we can be very consistent about everything we do. It's like in our meetings, a lot of times we go to projects and meetings we have a meeting from 8 to 9, and we have a meeting from 9 to 10, and then a meeting from 10 to 11, and everybody's racing for a time to get to the field so they can see what the heck is going on, right? So we streamline the meetings. Morning meeting, a lot of times we'll have a stand and deliver meeting. It's the same time every morning, 6 to 7, whatever works on your project. And then we give the teams 2 to 3 hours, and they're out in the field, they're walking their zones, they're checking designs, whatever that is, walk zones to update the schedule, because we update every day. And then we set a streamlined set of time, like say on this project, 10 to 11 every day. There's a staff meeting on Monday, OAC on Tuesday, Wednesday schedule validation meeting, Thursday, now you're going to catch me in a lie. Thursday, I can't remember what Thursday is our trade partner meeting, excuse me. And then Friday is we save that Friday for long-term planning. So we're looking into the future. But every day at the end of the day, this is what I want to get at, is we have plan of the next day. And every trade partner comes in, we have logistics maps up they get to move the tiles around and put those tiles, magnetic tiles, where they have a roadblock. And a roadblock is something that can be removed. So your example, I'm the roofer. I can't get to the roof because Mr. Civil guy dug a trench, right? And we talk about that every day. So the trade comes in, they put their inspections up, they put their roadblocks up. We pull up a logistics map on a monitor. Everyone draws on that where they're working. So every trade partner is standing there huddled around this board. And if I'm the concrete guy saying I'm putting a pump truck here, concrete's coming in here, and the civil guy has a chance to say, hey, wait a minute, that isn't going to work. And we look at each other in the eye and say, hey, does this work or not? Do we need to move things around? And that's where we get that give and take in negotiation, right?
So you have I can't even talk. a visual board of like the floor plan or the site, whatever.
Yep.
And you're every trade's, like you said, the concrete guy's like, hey, I'm going to have a pumper truck here
Yep.
all day tomorrow,
Yep.
doing this and this. And the excavator's like, well, then I can't put this in because that's going to be in my way. And then they work through that somehow to figure out a schedule that's going to work. Hey, just a quick time out from the show. If you're a frustrated contractor who's dealing with low profit margins, stuck working on the tools every day, or doing free estimates for people who are never going to hire you in the first place, I invite you to my private contractor community, the Profit Club, where contractors just like you are adding 2 to 3 times more profit each year without producing any more jobs, and finally getting completely off the tools to never do another free estimate again. So if you're ready to increase your profits, stop doing free estimates, and get off the tools, then all you have to do is click the link in the show notes to learn more about the Profit Club and see how I can easily 2 to 3 times the cash in your pocket, give you a proven sales process that will convert more jobs with ease and get you off the tools once and for all. And the best part is you can do all of this without having to produce more jobs than you currently are. Click the link to learn more. Now let's get back to the show.
That's correct. Specific to concrete plans, we require that we have their pumping logistics plan a week in advance. Now, sometimes we're a little bit short of that, right? That's our goal. We expect it a week in advance, and if it's less than that, that's the exception, not the rule, right? In construction, we are fighting fires because we're doing things last minute and not planning ahead, right? And when you're doing that, don't be surprised at what you get, right? Your days are going to be set out in the field, just answering questions, solving problems, and you're not going to be able to get your stuff done. And that's where it turns into somebody working 16, 18 hours a day because there's no plan, right?
Yeah. Interesting. Yeah. And so obviously on a larger project like that, you have a lot of collaboration, even the subs typically have, project managers or whatever that are representing the company and all that. Mm-hmm. What about like it's maybe a little bit smaller outfit that doesn't have that much supervision or leadership? Can they apply the same kind of principles?
Absolutely. Absolutely you can. So it's interesting. I was just having this conversation today, and it's been a conversation for, I don't know, say the last 15 or 20 years. How do I apply the same things? Like if you go to one of these hyperscale data centers, there's a real focus on taking care of trades, right? Which shouldn't matter what size project you're on. You got to take care of the men and women that are building the building for you, right? You need them to be successful. By the way, that doesn't mean you just roll over, right? It's a partnership. So in this particular conversation, they're like, hey, out on these hyperscale data centers, they have all these conditioned break rooms and all these conditioned restrooms and things like that. And people get stuck. They're like, how do I apply that to my little $2 million job? And I'm like, listen, like, yeah, you're probably not going to want those conditioned or have the budget for those conditioned restrooms. And sometimes they're not all that cracked up to what you got to be very careful if you're going to buy those. But how about you just have a very good plan for your restrooms and a plan for a break area? One of the projects we're on right now, the first conversation I had with them about, and it's cold, it's very cold. I'm like, where are the craft eating? And they're like, oh, we don't have any room for that. We don't have the budget for that. I'm like, hang on a minute. Then you go sit outside on the curb and eat your lunch and get out of the office. Okay. And then maybe we'll have time to talk about this. It was really simple. We put up a couple temp walls. We got a couple electric heaters, set up a couple tables. It's not a huge project. There's less than 100 craft workers on that site. We set up a revolving lunch, right? And work that out with the trades. So now everybody has the option to, if they do have a company truck, they can certainly go sit in their company truck and have lunch, but they could also go into this little break area. And it was literally just a few hours of work to give these folks a clean space to eat, right? So we could do a similar thing that they're doing at Google or at Meta or a lot of these big data centers, just on a smaller scale.
Right.
Clean restrooms. Like, we all have to use the restroom. And I go to jobs all the time and I check the restrooms. I was on one last week and I was like, hey, what are we doing, man? we've got 4 restrooms and they're, I don't know, 500, 800 feet away from where people are working. It's cold, somebody's got to go to the bathroom. Like, we can figure this out. Let's get 4 or 6 more restrooms. And how many times a week are you having them cleaned? And that's not adequate. So get it cleaned a couple times a week, show some respect for the trades. And the pushback that I got is that it costs money. And I'm like, well, what does it cost when you don't get your project done on time? And trades, believe it or not, craftsmen and women can choose where the heck they're going to work, right? They ultimately, like, hey, you're sending me this job that treats me like crap, then I'm out. I'm going to go to this one that takes care of me.
Yeah, I mean, all you got to do is take one person, one tradesman who, he likes to go to the bathroom on the clock every day, do his number, and he's got to walk 10 minutes to the board job. It's like you just added an extra 20 minutes a day of non-productive time for one person, and you have 100 people on this site. Like, you're telling me you can't afford another, $50 a month for cleaning the porta-johns or whatever it is, a couple $100 to have more. It's just insane. Yeah. But a lot of that too. And I don't know. I don't have enough, experience with like huge projects, but it's always like, most of the time, especially in residential, smaller, they're always bidding with the smallest bidder, the smallest amount. And so they're always cutting costs somewhere because they didn't charge or price appropriately in the first place. Like, they just underbid the job. And so they're always trying to cut corners somewhere. And it usually is those things you're talking about. Yeah. The amenities or the things that are going to make the craftsman's jobs easier are the first things that get cut.
Yeah, and I would say that what I challenged my owners when I worked for a GC, or even my clients now, like, are you choosing the right clients to work with? That, if your owner's son or daughter was out here working, and listen, it doesn't have to be super fancy, just clean and respectful, right? Size it appropriately for your project. And I just had this conversation yesterday, okay? This prime example. And I was talking to a senior superintendent, and he's like, hey, I had this project in Houston, and we get this nasty winter every year. We get this ice storm thing that blows through. And I had an opportunity to think ahead, and I got everything enclosed and put heat in there. And we were struggling to get craft workers. He's like, when we got that storm for 2 or 3 weeks, my project was overrunning with craft. It was a godsend, is what he said. He's like, it was amazing how much work we got done, and what a shot in the arm that gave our project. And people didn't want to leave because they knew I cared about it.
There's so much of that. I got to get my own, mentality where the GC's got to get his own, the subs are trying to get their own, instead of just working together and everybody benefits. Yeah. You get a lot of that, I got to look out for myself kind of mentality. It's hard to overcome that. It doesn't matter if it's residential, commercial, industrial. It's across the whole, industry. Do you think we'll ever get to the point to where there will be a lot of collaboration, like we're talking about?
Yeah, I think the opportunity is out there with the right clients. They're definitely, and it starts with the clients as well, and the general contractor, and aligning on what's important to them. And we like to say, people first. So for commercial construction services, does it work for me and my team? Does it work for my client? Does it make sense? And then is it financially rewarding after that, right? So if the answer is no in any one of those buckets, you got some hard decisions to make. And I think it's got to be one of the clients that I'm working with right now is they just started, and I'll probably say it wrong, people first. It's around safety, and it's around a lot of those things that we're just talking about, is like, take care of the field and your office will benefit, right? It all comes along. If you're removing roadblocks, creating an environment somebody wants to be in, and getting folks paid, you're probably not going to have to worry about getting your work done. You're not going to have to worry about as many change orders, because that environment that you're talking about right now that's not collaborative, first thing the general contractor says, well, Joe, the framer fell behind, I'm putting him on notice. Instead of having that relationship with them, calling them in and saying, hey, Joe, what's going on? Because a lot of times you'll find out, at least I have found out, and I've jumped to conclusions a bunch of times and made that mistake. It was something I did not recognize. Yeah. And I think that relationship piece starts at the get-go. And I'll give you an example. A good buddy of mine is Paul Colombo. He runs a tile company. And when he was young, his mentor was retiring and handing Paul off to me. Paul's your guy. And Paul's a real forward guy. And he came in and he's like, hey, I really appreciate the opportunity. I'm looking forward to working with you. What's the best way we can get started? And I'm like, hey, don't ever lie to me, right? Don't keep bad news from me. I'm going to find out anyways. I want you right in here. I want you to tell me straight up. If you don't have manpower, you don't have material. If we haven't got your submittals pushed through, predecessor work is not done, get in here and tell me so I can take care of it. And, the old saying, bad news doesn't get better with time. And Paul and I've got a 20-year fabulous relationship. And I've done the same thing with my framers and my concrete guys and all that stuff. And that's where it's got to start, I believe.
Well, it's got to start at the top, right? It's got to start with us.
Yeah,
like if we're the owner.
Yep.
The leaders has to start with us. I mean, I talk all the time with my clients is, effective communication. And what does that really mean, right? It can be anything. The easiest way I've kind of brought it down to is if I communicate something to you and you have a bunch of questions about what I just communicated, then I did not effectively communicate that information because I didn't give you all the information you needed.
Yeah.
I mean, it doesn't mean there's not going to be any questions, but if there's basic questions, I didn't communicate very well.
That's good on you. That's ownership, right?
Yeah. And that's where it's at. Like it always starts at the top. This is what I preach all the time. It's like extreme ownership, Jocko Willink, if you've read his book.
Oh, yeah.
But it's like everything is your fault. But Brad, the drywall guy didn't show up when he said he was going to show up. Okay. Well, was that communicated? Did you talk about that? And by the way, you hired the drywall guy, so maybe he wasn't a very good drywall guy. That's on you because you hired him and you didn't have a good vetting process or whatever it is.
That's right.
Ultimately, it's your fault. And if you take that inward direction first, and then make sure everyone underneath you has it, which is what you're saying. When you make sure everyone underneath you is taken care of, they will actually do a much better job of taking care of you.
That's right. Yeah, I've got a great example. I love all the Jocko and Leif stuff, right? I mean, it's fantastic stuff. I wish the whole world spent a little more time on that. I think it'd be a much better place, right? So our plumber, I'm walking a job. I haven't been here in 2 weeks, and I show up and the plumber's made a mistake, right? And it's bad coordination between the concrete and the civil contractor and the plumbing contractor and the GC. And so I'm walking the job with team members, and I took a couple of photos, and I found a couple of my teammates and for the GC, and I said, hey guys, can you guys help me out with this situation? And one of the team members immediately said, oh yeah, we should have never hired those guys. They're just no good and all this. I'm like, hang on a minute. And they both had company shirts on. And I said, whose name is on the fence? Neither one of these people we're talking about, their businesses. This is our job. We have to own this. Yes, they made a mistake, but ultimately, this is our job. They're in this situation because we did not coordinate it. We did not follow the drawings, and we did not follow the schedule properly. And they both said, yeah, you know what? That's a good point. Like, we got to change our mindset.
Yeah, 100%. That's what I'm saying. By the way, Extreme Ownership was a required reading for all my employees.
That's awesome.
Like I made them read that book. I would pay them. Like I would say, hey, you read this book, I'll give you $20 or whatever, $50, whatever it was. To incentivize them, but it was always a good lesson there. There's so much good that comes into that. I do want to. We're getting a little bit short on time. I want to just kind of give some people that are listening to this that are like, that's great. Mark and Brad, I hear you guys talking about this, but I'm a smaller outfit. What are some practical things that they can start implementing in their business today to really help them have a better business?
So one of the things that we do is, if you are having meetings with your trades or your clients, ask them how it's going. We call them plus delta meetings. And believe it or not, there's a lot of people in the country that don't know what those are, and that don't be offended by that. All it is like, hey, what went well today in this meeting? And you have to be ready to accept some feedback, right? And don't be afraid of it. I would say embrace it. None of us are perfect. say you're on a long-term project, however you started, whatever you were starting, just say it's meetings because we're talking about that. Those things morph over time. They change, right? You just like your building, right? When you start your structure, you're putting utilities in and foundations, and then you go to your vertical structure, and then you're going to interiors. Like everything has to morph a bit, right? It's got to change. As far as visual planning, I would look into implementing Bluebeam or some type of software. It's pretty simple stuff. Even an old guy like myself can use Bluebeam and start tying that to your schedules. And like, just take small snippets of your project. Say you got a generator yard to build as an example, right? They're typically not big, but they're complicated because they have all the same things involved in that generator yard as you have in the building, right? All the utilities have to come and go from there. You've got to set the generators. You typically got fence, you've got concrete curbing. And I would just build a small flow chart of your work, right? What's your first activities, second activities, and highlight them, and look at it. Does this make sense? Does this order make sense, right? Bring your trades in, get their feedback. A lot of times we fail, and it's the old pride and ego thing. Like, I told them to get that crap done, right? I sent them the schedule, right? And man, it is amazing how much you can learn from your trades if you bring them in and you're collaborating with them. And be willing to hear the feedback.
Yeah, it's a collaboration, not a competition.
That's right.
Right? Like, we're not trying to compete against whose fault it wasn't.
Yeah, right.
I always say that there's, I just forgot what I always say. We were just talking about it. As far as ego and stuff, I tell my clients all the time, like, look, there's no feelings in business. Meaning, if you're the owner of a business or a leader, supervisor, manager, you can't take things personally if someone comes and says, this was screwed up and it was your fault, or maybe it was whatever. But the second you start taking that personally, you've lost the conversation. Let's approach this from a mutual, what's going wrong? What can we do better? Mm-hmm. It doesn't matter whose fault it was. It's just, let's figure it out so we can move forward or make sure it doesn't happen again. But removing the emotions from it, removing the feelings from it is a big step.
Yeah. And when it becomes personal, like I said, it's really tough to get back. And in one of the projects that I'm on right now, that's where they're at. They've been there for a couple of years. There's a lot of people, a lot of feelings, and it's it's really a toxic environment. And if everyone's focused on doing what's right for the project and the team members, right? And those are different things, and one may win out over the other. But we always say people first, and then the project, and just what is right. Take all the emotions out of it. And also be focused on constant improvement. If you own a business, the things you're struggling with, right?
Yeah. I like that. People first, going back to the bathroom situation, I want to save a couple grand on, the toilets, but is that going to be the best option for my guys? No. I'll take the $2,000 hit this time to make sure my guys are taken care of, because if I don't, on the next project, they may not want to work for me. You know what I mean? So like, it's that mindset of like putting the people first. I like that. And
the thing of it is, like you said earlier, so when you mentioned a large project, I think it was Toyota came into your area, what did it do to the local contractors, right? Did a bunch of the local craft that you would use end up at that big factory, and you wish you would have had them on your projects, right? That's what I'm seeing in a lot of markets. So, what's the couple $1,000s more? Keep them interested, keep them happy, because not everybody's made for those big mega sites either, right? Not everybody wants to be on them, and they're challenging. And not that what you guys are doing on a smaller scale isn't challenging, but there comes with a bunch of other stuff, right? You wouldn't necessarily have building your custom homes.
Right. Yeah. There's always opportunities.
Yeah.
The collaborative aspect of it, if you can really, if you're a general contractor, I tell my guys this too, like, cause I have some general contractors, I have some tradespeople, subcontractors, and they're like, well, how can I find good, if a sub's like, how can I find a good GC? And I say, well, go to them and ask, figure out where their pain points are with their current subs, and then make sure you solve that problem for them.
Yeah.
And then my GC is like, well, how do I find good subs? And I'm like, well, go to your subs and find out where their main pain points are and solve that for them.
Yeah.
It's the same.
Yes.
It's the same solution going both ways. And if both parties do that, it's a win-win.
How often do you see those two groups get together other than at bidding a project? Like before I know, at least for me, before my wife and I got married, we dated. It's literally no different. Like if you're looking for a good plumber or electrician, go out and meet the people, get to know them. Do they fit your culture, right? Do you like what they're doing? And then go from there.
It's a lot of work.
It is.
Like, Brad, I don't have time. Mark, I don't have time to go and babysit the plumber. I just need somebody that can show up and do good work.
Yeah.
It's like, well, then you're going to have problems
Yeah.
if you're not willing to invest in that time.
Either spend it now or you're going to spend a heck of a lot more later, right? That's what we always talk about, right? I mean,
that's right.
I know where you're headed if you don't make these changes, right? It's a pretty simple path.
Yeah. And usually it's like a 5-minute additional conversation that saves you 2 hours of problems later on.
100%.
But they're like, I don't have time. I don't have time for that extra 5 minutes right now.
So the prime example, so we do long-term planning. We focus on this, and this starts at pre-con, right? A lot of times I was that superintendent. They're like, hey, Mark, job starts on Monday. Okay. Where's the plans? I'll have them sitting on the desk as you're heading out the front door, right? And so we highly suggest and push our teams to get together and look into the future. What are the plans that we need to have done, right? Is it temp power? Is it material hoist? Do we have a logistics plan for the project? Where's our dumpsters? Where's our toilets? Where's all these things? And I, a lot of times get team members are like, I don't have time to plan. I'm like, well, either do it now, you're going to do it anyways. And if you don't win the battle here in the war room versus trying to fight it out on the battlefield with no plan.
That's right.
So, and it's not perfect, right? There's always things, right? We have design, we have weather, we have missed coordination. But when you have a solid plan to start with, it's so much easier to pivot, and it's a shorter conversation. When you don't have any plan at all, you have to bring in every person and have this long conversation about every little thing. And you're going to do it every day of the week through the life of the project, right?
Yeah. That's the 5 Ps, right?
Yeah.
Prior, proper planning.
Yeah.
Or whatever proper planning, whatever it is, 5, 6, 7 Ps.
Yeah. Right.
Prevents piss poor performance, right? And it all boils down to the planning. It's like, what's the saying about I can't remember it exactly, but if a guy had to cut down trees and he had 4 hours, he would spend 3 hours sharpening his blade, right? Before he actually cut down. It's the same thing. You spend that extra time ahead planning, it's going to save you the execution headaches later on. Right. So
have patience.
Well,
have patience to do that.
Oh yeah. Yeah. That's patience and blue collar don't go well together. Yeah. Well, we're getting close to the end here. Mark, I always like to ask all my guests this. What's a book that you're reading or one that you would recommend?
I've got one right now. This is, I can't remember the title, but hang on one second. It is Winning on Purpose.
Okay. I've never heard that one.
It is a fantastic book.
Who's the author?
One of the things that I found is I'm not a great reader. I never have been. So I have Audible, and I'm always on a plane somewhere. So I listen to Audible books all the time. And it's Fred Richeld, Reichheld.
Okay. Yeah, I'm an Audible guy too. Sure. Awesome. Well, Mark, thanks again for being on the show. I appreciate all your insight and everything that you shared with us.
Yeah, thank you for having me on. It was a great conversation. Hope we can catch up. It's always good to catch up with a Midwestern person.
Yeah. Well, I'm not saying if somebody wants to reach out, learn more about your services, what's a good place to reach you?
Well, I'll tell you, we started our business and it took off really fast. So I didn't have some of the things in place. We're right now building our website, which should be up and running here in the next couple of weeks. You can reach me at mark@storyccs.com, or you can give me a call at 612-968-0257. And I mean, if somebody just wants to call and have a conversation, I'd be glad to share whatever I can.
Awesome. Well, I'm sure they would appreciate that. Yeah. We'll put that in the show notes too, so you guys can have access to that. Well, Mark, thanks again for being on the show. I really appreciate it.
Oh, and they can find me on LinkedIn too. Sorry, I forgot paying that.
Is that, is it just your name or what's the LinkedIn?
Commercial Construction Services, LLC.
Gotcha. Okay. So we'll put that in there too, LinkedIn. Thanks, Mark. I appreciate you being on the show.
Thank you too, sir. Have a great day.
All right, guys, that's the end of the show. I appreciate you hanging out with us. You can find all my socials. Just go search for the Hammer and Grind Podcast or go to the show notes to get those. And remember, until next time, profit is not a dirty word.